Welcome to Everything Life Coaching. I'm John Kim.
And I'm Noelle Cordeaux. We are the founders of Lumia.
And we're super passionate about all things coaching, and we want to share what we've learned from over a decade of coaching and training thousands of life coaches.
Let's dive into the science and magic of coaching.
On today's episode, Noelle and I are going to talk about men's emotional health. I just want to say there are 30 mile-an-hour winds happening in Altadena. You can't see them, but in front of me, there's trees dancing like crazy. So right now, the connection's great, but let's keep our fingers crossed.
Yes, we will.
Yeah.
We will. Well, thanks for hanging with me. I want to acknowledge the source of our podcast today, which is the Global Wellness Summit puts out a report every year. And every year I do the work of reading it and kind of identifying what coaches need to think about in terms of the market data, because market data isn't inherently sexy, but I feel like we can make it sexy. So that's our goal today, is to make the data sexy and talk about a trend that is bubbling. I've seen it bubbling, but the specifics of it are really interesting to me. And that is the world of men's emotional health. This is your business. What have you been seeing over the last couple of years?
I have been seeing a new generation of men in their 20s, early 20s. When I was in my early 20s, I was just, I had no capacity. I was reactive. I was an idiot. I was just, that's pretty much right out of college. But I feel like the men today growing up and crossing that great divide from boy to man, it's happening earlier, and what they care about is amazing. So emotional intelligence, vulnerability, looking inward, all these things that my generation, those kind of men, they turn the corner maybe 40s, late 30s. I think it's happening earlier for the men today. Like 20s.
Wow. And so this is beautiful, first of all, like absolutely beautiful. I love the way that gender norms are changing in our society that gives folks permission to perhaps embrace different emotional outlets or perspectives that were once hidden or not sanctioned or, just like not part of our everyday discourse. Now, that is going against a lot of the statistics that are coming out. So right now, male friendship has been steadily declining around the globe. In 2021, 15% of men stated that they have zero close friends. How do you see male friendships?
Yeah, I agree with that, and I feel that, and I wonder how old those men are. But I think generally, broad strokes, with the rise of women and blueprints being taken down and a lot of rocks being turned over, I think men are feeling confused, scared, lonely, all of this. And so I think there's a lot of men who are kind of isolating.
Yeah, that tracks. So the where the sources are coming to are overwork, remote work, religious decline, lower marriage rates, rising divorce rates. These are all contributing factors to loneliness and isolation. That is really kind of blowing up right now. How are you seeing those trends in your own world and the work that you do?
Well, also the a lot of women around me who are 40s and also now leaving marriages and kind of, we're going through the rebirth are also, in heterosexual relationships, dating younger men, like 20, which is all new. That wasn't a thing before. And that may make a large population of men my age feel left out or lonely because women are dating, 25-year-olds.
That's super real.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super real. And then, I've seen that happen in the women's space, also of like women feel like they're aging out of the dating market because men in their 50s don't want to date women in their 50s. They're looking for younger women also. So it's this kind of like this interplay and everybody's lonely. I'm like, come on, folks, like let's get it together here. So I guess given that conundrum, how do you think we should be tackling this and talking about this as coaches?
Oh, wow. Well, I think it's important to, you're making the data sexy, to know what's happening, right? So as a coach, being more responsible by, um, the data, what's happening with men, not just, what I see in my neighborhood, but like globally. So you have more of an accurate, temperature check on where men are at, right? And then I think there's a it's happening more, but I think there's a demand for male coaches.
Mhm. Yeah, there is a male coaches.
When I was in school, like 15 years ago, I was like the only, not only the only minority, but there was only like 3 men out of like 100, therapists in training. But with coaching, I see more and more men stepping into this role.
We are seeing more and more and men come into the fold at Lumia, and a lot of the folks who are coming in are interested in working on the conundrum of men's emotional health, wellness, and well-being. And the stakes are actually pretty high because if we're thinking about men as a segment of the population, the loneliness that's taking place is putting huge swaths of population at greater risk for cardiovascular disease, dementia, stroke, depression, anxiety, and premature death. And men are have shorter lifespans than women,
Mhm.
and right now, they're twice as likely to die from suicide than women.
I feel like saying that right now more than ever, men need other men, not just men. I mean, because like in our culture, we don't spend a lot of time making male friends.
Right.
So as a man, we are obsessed with business, you know, um, our toys, golf, whatever. We just don't spend. And also a lot of times when we do spend time with other men, it's very locker room. They're not authentic conversations where we're able to talk about our feelings and what we're struggling with. Right? Um,
Yeah.
they're very scoreboard oriented.
And that has so much to do with socialization, and that's one of the points that was actually raised in the Global Wellness Summit report. And one of the things that I felt was really interesting is that the Global Wellness Summit, huge international organization, when they were looking at this particular topic, they decided to interview a coach to talk about this. And so there's now a direct correlation between this work and the role that coaches can play as like true social first responders in this space. So the person that was featured is named Craig White. He's a transformational men's coach out of the UK, and he runs a retreat called Men Without Masks. Part of this work, or I guess at the center of this work, is shifting gender roles. So to your point that you felt growing up there was a very specific emotional lane that men could stay in. What Mr. White has said is that for so long, men have needed to be providers and protectors. And so there's like a natural evolution of stoicism, ready for battle, detached from emotions, and then that's what contributes to stereotypical traits. But women are no longer mostly in Western society in a position where they're looking for that protector or provider. And so the question becomes, who am I? What's my role in society? What's my vocation? And these are the big questions. How do you relate to all of that?
Yeah, and also questions like, "What is my worth? Who am I?" Those are inward-looking questions, right? And
Yeah.
so it requires an inner journey, and if that's not something you're willing to go on, then there is depression, isolation, feeling alone, lost, all of that. Um, what's great about coaching is I think because of the stigma of therapy, men generally, don't go to see a therapist or get help unless they have to, unless they lose something, right? Like a marriage or custody or something. But when men are coaches, um, it doesn't have the stigma. And it doesn't mean that anything is wrong with you. It's almost like a privilege. And so men entering the coaching world through different modalities like breath, retreats, it's creating bridges for men to now go on that inner journey instead of like, I'm going to go see a therapist because something's wrong with me.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And it seems like as we're following these trends, so it's like, so what do coaches need to know? What's showing itself really dominantly is that groups are really important in this work. Groups are superseding one-on-one. Why do you think that is?
Oh, community. Generally men sharpen other men. Identity, feeling like you're a part of something. You're not alone. Even the little retreats I do, I'm noticing there's more and more. The last retreat I did was actually the first time that it was a co-ed retreat where there's more men than women. And that's never
Wow.
happened before. So
Do you
it's
think
just telling what's happening.
do you think it's easier for men to process emotion in groups than one-on-one?
Yes. Yes. I think,
Okay. Yeah.
I,
What's up with that?
I think men go to one-on-one if there's something very wrong with their life and there's something specific they're going through. But in general, as far as like wellness, mental health, um, going to a group, but I think the group has to hang on something that is more of an activity. So whether it's
Mm,
a retreat or motorcycle riding or whatever the group the activity is, it attracts them, and then what happens in the group is very therapeutic, if that makes sense, right? So like
mm,
whether it could be like a group meets at my house and we do ice plunging. It's literally a 3-minute ice plunge, but it's not the ice plunge. It's after we get out, it sets us up for how you doing, what's going on in your life. So it's almost
mm.
like a primer, right?
Mhm. Yeah. I think another aspect of this is role modeling, that in order to really bring folks together, there has to be someone or someones that are willing to stand up and say, I represent the change that is possible. And your work, as a public figure, has that's been a huge part of. You were really one of the first super visible men that I'm aware of, in our space as a coach to stand up and talk about your fucking feelings. Like,
Yeah, but I mean, but it took a divorce. It took me losing everything. But I mean, I had nowhere else to go, you know. But inward was my only choice. Either that or I just got depressed and yeah,
inward and then public, which is a really interesting
yeah,
juxtaposition.
yeah.
We're starting to see this happening in the sports arena, where more and more male athletes are coming out and talking about the impact of the pressure that they're under, the impact of racism within society, the health struggles, mental health struggles, and saying, this needs to be part of the conversation within sports itself. Are you seeing this happening? Is this translating into traditionally male spaces like gyms?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because the conversation in gyms aren't just how much do you bench anymore. It's what else are you doing to under wellness, relationships. How are you? Like it's changing. It isn't like the '80s where men are just chest bumping each other. Um, but I think the conversations are changing. Even though it is technically still the gym, the new generation who of men who are concerned more about their well being than just muscles is I kind of feel that in the gym happening as well.
There's another trend that's taking place. So one is expression of feelings. And that seems like, what we're talking about is like really from a coaching perspective, back to basics. Um, and the other trend is meal prep, which also feels like back to basics. So if we're taking these two things, okay, when men are coming together in groups, two of the main things that they're learning how to do is prepare basic meals and express their feelings. Um, how are you with meal prep? Do you? I mean, we were roommates in LA for a very brief period, so I know where you were. Fast forward me now. Where are you at with meal prep?
My meal prep is eating out all the time, but
Okay.
my partner cooks. She's a vegetarian. I'm not, so it can be kind of tricky. But um, I mean, I don't. I do focus on it, but I also allow myself to treat myself. I think my biggest thing is the diet area. That's the um, what I put in my body, I don't have the discipline for that. I'm working on it.
That's becoming ever increasingly important for younger
Yeah.
generations,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
who are kind of looking at a failed healthcare system and saying, "Man, I need to take care of my body because, right now preventative health is the number one thing." And I think that that plays into emotional health as well, because if younger generations are coming up saying like, "I need these building blocks," if you were to give a primer, and I thought about this and I didn't have an answer, is to explain to someone how to express their feelings in like an ABC, direction set. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing of telling someone how you feel is already slanted. Men resist that, because then they define that as weak or whatever. I'm more about I love this idea that, I wanna do life with you instead of at you or around you. And
Yeah.
so men have done life at people, right? The
Mhm.
iron fist, this is very 50s, my way or the highway, or they've done life around people, suppressing everything. I'm just gonna, work harder or whatever, but not talking about how they feel. So doing life with you to means like show yourself. How are you
Yeah.
doing? What are your dreams? So I don't even like using the word feelings. So I like using this idea of let's do life together, do life with me. How are you doing? Show yourself.
Yeah.
To me, that encourages a connection and openness instead of tell me how you feel. That phrase, like tell me how you feel, has become uh, just very loaded, and so I think men they push back against that.
I think that's really important in especially for coaches thinking about even coaches who aren't men, but who wanna work with men, understanding that turning our dial to visibility. What would it look like for folks to see different parts of you? What parts of you aren't seen? What parts of you do you could express? What parts of you need nurturing? Can really change the conversation in terms of how people do it. I always think in if then sequences, and a lot of times it's like uh, I statements. When X, I felt. So if we're going to replace that, it might be experienced. When X, I experienced would be a different way to say things, or when X, like this happened for me. So just giving people more verbal prompts and cues to say things differently can be really
Yeah, more language, and this is a great place for a coach to come in and, walk
important.
them through this, yes, of course, you could use the word "feel," but there are o other words you could use, um, to encourage self-expression.
Absolutely. And it's kind of like a rainbow that can be built in all of
Yeah.
this. Another thing that we're starting to see is corporate wellness solutions are starting to focus on this issue of loneliness. And for me, it's really fascinating because this is building to a head as the world is changing, as the idea of command and control leadership is no longer effective, especially for younger generations. And then we have this whole population of humans that's like, well, if not command and control, then what the hell do I do? And so now corporate wellness programs are beginning to look at how to, I think, re-socialize people and in the in terms of, and I'm just starting to wrap my head around this entry point because I focused in my own career for so long on feminist theory, feminist studies, and preparing for our conversation, I was like, well, how would I relate feminism to what's happening right now for men? And I came up, Bell Hooks has one of Bell Hooks'
Oh,
books.
yeah,
Ooh,
Vanessa just told me to read this Bell Hooks book. I haven't read it yet, but that's wow, you just said that. She 2 days ago, she was like, "I really want you to read this. It's amazing." And yeah,
the book that it might be the same one, Feminism is for Everybody.
I don't know. I'm the Bell Hooks have a few books, I'm sure. Yeah,
Absolutely.
maybe
So
the same one.
yeah, so Feminism is for Everybody really takes a look at the way that all of the old structures, the old systems, the old pressures that exist from white supremacy to capitalism to misogyny to patriarchy, they actually harm everyone. And so thinking about, men as part of this system that is literally no longer working for anyone. And one of the questions that I have is how can someone like me who does not identify as a man um, have this conversation with men about what it would take to give up power?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but I know that a lot of men who, grew up with, strong, shoulds in a very, patriarchal world, um, there's a lot of activation, and this is like, the boomers, maybe my generation, um, men are being very activated right now because the world is changing, you know?
Yes.
And of course, the answer is not to react, but to look inward and see where that activation is coming from. But not all men are in a place to do that, So there's a lot of anger, loneliness, fuck the world. I'm gonna go live on an island, like that whole thing. And men, the suicide rate for men, the difference between men and women is men actually pull the trigger.
Yeah.
There's more ideation with women, but men actually um, as far as data, they actually, execute, which is, scary.
Yeah. And it's it's just super real that
Yep.
I
Yeah.
feel, at the bottom of this conversation is we're looking at power. We're looking at power structure. We're
Mhm. Mhm.
looking at things that people might feel they are owed because of a certain position within society. And when that's no longer available, there's pain, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's really
Pain, desperation, identity loss, you know, men feeling like they're losing their cape, that thing. Even
yeah,
though that's not what's happening, that's the feeling that they have.
yeah. And so for me, I have so many men in my life that I love and cherish and honor. And when I really think about, what the entry point is for me, it would be love. And but how
Mhm.
do I do that without codependence? How do I do that with
Yeah.
with also rising to meet folks with my own power, right? Because I'm not
Mhm.
ceding it. I'm saying, "Hi, friend, you seem to be in pain. I worked
Mhm.
my ass to get to a position of power. You're upset because you feel like you're losing power. Can we meet in the middle?" Like,
Yeah, I think, the word that comes from me is empathy, I think that, men should be empathetic with women in how they've been suppressed for so long. And right now is an exciting time because women not only have careers, but they have voices and they're changing the paradigm a lot. And so instead of being threatened by that, championing that, right? I feel I can imagine what that was like. So this is great. And then women for men, um, you must feel lonely, confused. You were also impacted by, patriarchy, societal structures, and you must be going through a really hard time because of this shakeup. So I think empathy produces that kind of glue where it's no longer about men or women or any gender. It's just about humans. It's about what have we been through? How have we been affected? And how could we come together to create something new and customized,
absolutely. And I think, the rise of gender fluidity is a benefit to
Mhm.
this
Yeah.
conversation
Yeah.
with
Because it erases lines.
absolutely. And I
Mm.
I love, love, love the multivariance of expression that especially younger generations are experiencing right now with
Yeah, that's
all
what I
the
was
nail
saying, yeah.
try all the colors, let's all sparkle together, let's erase gender norms as far as what you can wear, how you can look, how you wear your hair, all of it. So I think broadening that conversation to human empathy is perhaps an invitation.
Gen Z are the chalkboard erasers. They're coming in like Pac-Man and just erasing the whole blackboard, which I think is making everyone, focus on humanness instead of gender.
I agree. I'm so excited about Gen Z, and I like, it's crazy to begin thinking about myself as an elder, as I'm one of the youngest of Gen X,
Yeah,
right? Like I'm
I
like, oh my God. And so it's like you're Gen X as well. So it's basically our job right now to clear the way for Gen Z.
mhm, yeah, yeah, and I'll be honest, there's a lot of, "This is amazing," and then there's parts of me, that struggle with it because I have my one foot in the '80s, and I grew up, in a very, like, this is what men should be like, and this is what women should be like, and so, um, deconstructing that, erasing that is definitely a process.
Yeah, it's a super interesting analysis. One of the I think the biggest shifts for me, also growing up in the '80s and thinking about the ways in which I felt socialized to relate to men. There was a certain point in my life. It was probably in my early 40s where I finally got rid of this idea that I would need a chaperone, that I would need a male chaperone as an entry point to any space that I wanted to be in. And I didn't even realize that was something that was in my psyche because I'm a pretty out there human in the world. I travel all over the place, I go where I want to go. But I was like, wow, I've been hanging on to this thing and then finally releasing it. It was like, it's it it's gone. And I don't think I'm the only one. I think that a lot of people are experiencing that. And I think that that might be one of the contributors to this huge shift.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very exciting time, it's, for many, a scary time, but,
Mhm.
anytime there is, activation, there's also opportunity, and the big word that comes to my mind on this topic with men's work is there's opportunity on all sides. There's opportunity, change definitions of man. There's opportunity for coaches to come in and help, via Trojan horse or however you want to do it. There's opportunity for just so many changes right now. And to me, that's lined with hope. To me, that's exciting.
I agree. I agree. So I'm going to put out a call for thought leadership in this space,
Mhm.
and for folks to get in there who are coaches and start speaking about this, writing
Yeah,
about it, talking about
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Let's everyone along because we don't want those suicide rates to be where they are. We
Right.
don't want the pain that and loneliness and isolation that exists to remain in place, and we
Yeah,
do
of
want to have peace and integration for everyone.
course. Yes. Well, thank you for doing that. Thank you for contributing to this conversation.
Absolutely. You're my fave. I adore you.
All right, we made it.
Thank
We made it with no turbulence. The
you.
the the wind is crazy outside here, but yeah. Thank you.
Take care. I'll see you next
Yeah, be
time.
well. Thanks for listening to Everything Life Coaching. If you're feeling the draw to become a coach, head to lumiacoaching.com/everything. Explore a new career that brings fulfillment, gives you a true sense of purpose, and a bold community to do it with.
Lumia is ready to equip you with the tools, training, and community you will need to reach your goals. If you're ready to build a unique coaching business on your own terms while making an impact on the world at large, Lumia is the next bold step in your coaching journey. That's lumiacoaching.com/everything.
And hey, if you're waiting for a sign, this is it.